but we'll just riff.
Okay.
I've got some notes.
I haven't got any notes.
You don't need the notes. I made the notes. Yeah, but
I feel like your notes might be wrong.
They're from you.
Yeah, but sometimes you just ignore me and just go with what you think anyway. That's what most of your episodes are. Like,
the interpretation of Emmi Mudge through the eyes of Harry.
When I listen back, I'm like, that's not how I remember it happening.
Hey guys, and welcome to episode 24 of Dad Knows Best. I am Harrison Mudge, your host for today, and I am with a very special guest, Emmi Mudge, my wife. How's it going, Emmi?
Okay. I'm scared.
Don't be scared. I'll hold your hand the whole way. For anyone that is listening, this is the first ever episode as well that will be available to watch on YouTube as well. So if you want to see our lovely faces as we discuss what we're about to discuss, potentially being told how wrong I am by my own wife, you can just jump over to YouTube, search Dad Knows Best, and you should find this show, hopefully, if I've done my job correctly. Now, Emmi, I've got you on today for a very special reason, not because I want you to correct everything that I've said on the shows previously, but we recently had our beautiful baby boy, Elliott. And I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to go through the what do you call it, like the labour process, or like, well, I think the weekend that it all happened was quite a blur. A lot of things happened, and I think if we just kind of go through all that, how you felt about it all, what you expected to happen, and then what actually happened, and just your experience, really, because I was there like an absolute Melvin for most of the time, trying to help, but I think it makes more sense coming from yourself to just kind of go through all.
If I can remember it all.
So I shall set the scene. I've got some notes that should kind of give me a very rough guide. Don't judge my notes. But yeah, so we'll go through it. So just to set the scene, I was actually away with Adam in Dublin for work, staying over, and this was a Friday. By the way, if anyone can hear like a heavy breathing or anything, it's the dog that's walking around jumping up on us. But yeah, so I was away in Dublin on the Friday, staying over, and going to be coming back Saturday, late, sort of 6-7 o'clock. And you went in on where did you go on Friday? Did you go in to the hospital, or did you go?
The whole week before, I had high blood pressure, so they kept asking me to go in to be monitored. So I think
get right up on that mic.
Okay. I think on the Friday I went to see a consultant, and he said that I'd need to go in on the Saturday to be monitored probably overnight. So I went in expecting just to stay in one night, and just had a bag with one change of clothes. And then so I went in with my friend Claire, because you were away.
Yep.
And you managed to
Thank you, Claire, by the way.
You managed to get an earlier flight back.
Yep, we left Dublin Saturday probably about 1 o'clock instead of the 4 or 5 o'clock flight we were supposed to have.
So then stayed in overnight, and then Sunday morning they came in and told me that they thought it was preeclampsia, so that they would need to induce me, and it was going to be that evening.
Okay. So then I came home early from Dublin, sorted out a load of bags and things like that, and then came over to you, and then they basically started the induction process on the Saturday.
No, on the Sunday.
Was it Sunday?
Yeah.
Already
we've gone wrong.
Was it?
Yeah, because it's Saturday you got back from Dublin.
Yeah.
I stayed in overnight, you went home, and then in the morning...
Do not remember that.
I messaged you and said that they were going to induce me, so you had to get all the bags ready. Frank pooed all over the floor. Do you remember? Before you had to come back. Just to add to the chaos.
My mind is already frazzled from all of it. Okay, so on the Sunday, that makes more sense because he was born on a Monday.
Yeah. So I think you got back to the hospital about 1:00.
Yep.
So I'd asked for them to wait for you to come back before they started anything. And then I think they started the process about...
Well, in my notes, in my very rough notes, I've got that they started the induction process around 2:30.
Yeah, probably.
Ish, give or take, obviously.
Yeah, because they
for
had
anyone
to...
listening or watching, these times are not exact.
A lot of things happen, but before they do it, you have to go on a monitor and they strap the things to your belly and they listen to the baby to make sure everything's okay. So I had that for a while, and then they moved on to the next bit where they had to do the thing.
So I've got in my notes, they did something called a pessary. Is that the right pronunciation?
I think so, yeah.
Which is...
I think it's some sort of... It releases a hormone, basically, and tries to trigger whatever needs to be triggered.
So now it's all flooding back to me in my memory bank. So they put the pessary in, and the baby was being monitored. So on the machine you can see
Like heart rate.
Is it his heart rate or his movement, or are they just related?
It's heart rate, and I think there's two. So I think one measures movements and things as well.
Yeah. So Elliott the whole time was super chill, and had been the entire time you've been on the machine. But then when they put the pessary in, he started just freaking out.
Yeah, the line was going really up and down, and some bits it wasn't even joining, so they couldn't work out exactly what was going on.
So that was in for 2 hours, give or take, and then they decided to remove it because the baby was responding his reaction to it wasn't a good one, obviously.
I don't think they'd ever seen anything like it, because loads of people kept coming in and having a look, and the big bit of paper was getting longer and longer, and they're having a look.
You'd think that they'd have a better system for that as well, rather than it just spilling out on the floor.
So then they took it out, and as soon as they took it out, his heart rate went back to normal. So they were all amazed by that, weren't they? So
loads of people saw the reams of paper with all the lines on it. They then removed the pessary because obviously the baby, from my understanding, is the baby can react to it initially, but the idea is he then settles down. But because he just wasn't settling for just 2 straight hours, they decided to remove it. And then when they did, literally within minutes of removing it, you
could see it. It was so erratic, and then it just went back to steady. Yeah, it
just went to kept calling it a baseline or something. So he just chilled the fuck out. Then the next step was that they would just break your waters.
Yeah.
See, the whole time, as we've spoke on different shows, previous episodes, is we've had this whole plan of going to a birthing centre, super chill, all this laid back stuff. But because of your high blood pressure, that wasn't an option anymore.
I really wasn't keen on having an induction, because in my head, it then would move on to other things, and I just thought if you have an induction, things will go wrong and you'll end up having to have a C-section.
Yeah, from everything we've seen and heard, it seems to be that as soon as they make one decision, it then starts leading into the next decision, because that first thing might not work, and it's okay, so we need to move on to stage 2. And if you do stage 2, for example,
and I think because it's artificial, there's no way of your body's just not ready for it.
Yeah, you're forcing it to do something it doesn't want to do, basically. And from our understanding, is when you break the waters, you're basically on a time scale. Then
I think so. They've got to get the baby out within so many hours. So
then, obviously, when we're thinking, okay, they want to break our waters now, your waters. Mama breaking all day long. The concern was that it was their decision to break the waters early, but if that then didn't work, all of a sudden we're on a timer that if we'd not broken the waters, we wouldn't have then been on to the next step. So that was the constant concern that we had, that they just was going to keep pushing us down this funnel.
And I think because you don't know all the different options that are available. I've heard that there are different things that you can have instead, but nothing nothing else came up before.
No, they seem keen to just kind of give you one option and let you know. But at the same time, the high blood pressure was a genuine health concern.
Yeah.
So I think even if we'd have made it to the birthing centre,
I probably would have ended up in an ambulance
Yeah.
anyway, going back to the hospital, and it would have made it even
more stressful because you'd have had a taste of what it was like and then thrown back into the hospital.
And then you have to go in an ambulance for half an hour.
Yeah.
To then be in the same position I was in anyway, so
not good. so about 6:30 your waters were broke.
Yeah, so they transferred me to the delivery suite. So I went from a ward where there were 6 beds and 6 other women all in different stages of whatever was going on. And then I had my own room, which was nice. And they broke my waters there. Well, it took a while.
It was savage.
But yeah. I don't think we need to go into detail.
No, but even that was like grueling. Like from breaking waters onwards, the amount of like things that you had to go through just seemed to escalate.
A standard case by the sounds of it. Everything of mine has been extreme, so
yeah, and it was always a case of one thing throughout the whole process that I found was that they'd always say something like, "Oh, we're going to do this, but we might have to do that," whatever that might be. We always seem to end up doing that, and that was again another concern of like we were going through a process they suggested and gave us an alternative that might have to happen, and that alternative kept
and I think
seeming
that's when
to
it
have to happen.
Starts feeling like you're not in control of anything.
Yeah.
Because they keep telling you the next stage that you have to go through because this one's not worked.
Yeah, and at no point is anyone just saying, let's all just sit down, let's all just have a think about it.
You don't have time to make a decision. You have to just know what you're doing there.
So it's scary. But so we had your waters broke at around 6:30, and then from that you were showing signs of early contractions for about an hour or two.
They had a changeover as well with the midwife, so I don't know whether that maybe had an effect, because I had one woman who we'd got on with and then swapped over. The other lady was nice as well, wasn't she?
Yeah.
But I think it's just having different people coming in and out maybe puts you off your rhythm then.
Yeah, and you can be quite sort of anxious or nervous anyway, so like, and obviously we're already in a hospital, which is where you didn't want to be, and then you're in an environment that, although even though we'd now moved into a delivery suite, which is your nice own room, it still had that element of like clinicalness, and obviously you're still in a hospital, and like you said,
and you
the
don't know
shift
what's
change.
going on next, and
yeah,
you weren't expecting to be doing that day.
And I think one of the things is, what you've got to remember is these midwives and doctors are doing this day in, day out. Like Burton Hospital does it 3,000 times a year. This is the first and potentially...
This is like a big life moment, isn't it? So
for you, you're thinking, oh shit, what is going to happen next? For them, it's like, cool, we're just going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to get the baby out and everything's going to be gravy, because 99% of the time it normally is. So you had early signs of contractions. They then stopped. So the plan was, because you responded quite well to the waters breaking, it looked like you were showing promising signs to actually just go straight into the contractions escalating. That didn't quite happen, so they just kind of fizzled out into nothing again.
Yeah, and I was really willing for them to happen as well.
You were giving that gas and air a good go as well.
I've never wanted pain so much.
Willing it and then willing it to go away.
Yeah, but it didn't happen, so we had to go on to the next plan.
Yep, so then they put you on the drip, which was around 10 o'clock-ish p.m.
Probably.
So, and from my understanding, or what they said to us, is the drip is guaranteed to work. It's just how long it takes to kick in.
So they had to keep upping the dose on it, didn't they?
Yeah, they basically doubled the dose every 30 minutes.
So we went all the way up to the max.
The max. So he was squeezing it in the end, just squeezing the...
So then eventually it did get going, but I think because it was such a high dose, it made it really intense then. And so that it was happening quick. And then I think they had to put it back down again, because I was on that bed gripping onto the side of it.
So I've got here, it was sort of 10 till about 1 in the morning, which was the build up of the drip. And then from 1 till about, well, basically from 1 till 10 to 5 in the morning was the journey of contractions building up to baby is born. So the baby was born at 4:51 in the morning.
Yeah.
But that build up was a case of
I don't really remember a lot of that.
No, and that's kind of where it got really blurry, because it really happened super quick, because that's what that's under 4 hours from.
I don't know if it's like the gas and air or if I was just tired, but I don't know. I think you're probably just so focused on like the next contraction coming and getting through it. I don't really have any idea of what time or how long that was going on for.
So the contractions were kind of starting to come in, which again you had monitors on your belly, which you can see the contractions slowly coming in, and there's this number on there which is not quite accurate, but you can see when it starts going up there's a contraction coming. And they were very wishy-washy for a while, and then all of a sudden on the graph from going like something, nothing, something, nothing, something, like just random, all of a sudden it was like contraction off, contraction off. So we had something called a TENS machine. Now, for anyone that doesn't know what a TENS machine is, it's basically one of those ab blaster things, but you put it on like your
I've not actually seen it.
Well, for you as well then, basically what it is it's a little electrical device that's got 4 pads that you stick just below your shoulder blades on the muscles that go either side of your spine, and then just above the dimples on your lower back. And the idea is it sends electrical pulses into the muscles and into the spine, because the same principle as when you hurt your leg and you try and rub it better, like it blocks out, it's called like the pain gate or something. So the sensation from this TENS machine, the idea is these contractions are trying to shoot up the spine, the TENS machine's intercepting and closing the pain off and sending a different sensation.
Just felt like
a massage, because that's kind of what it's doing. The same with like when you have those ab things, it's like causing muscles to contract. It's basically the same principle.
It's probably just more of a distraction.
Yeah, and as far as distractions go, as a husband that's by the bed and has no control over anything that's happening, to be the one manning the TENS machine was actually a really great opportunity for me to feel like I'm actually helping. So I'd read the manual, I was plugged in, I was by this bedside, and obviously these contractions are slowly increasing. There's like a boost button that jumps in and goes more intense while the contractions are happening to hopefully try and intercept the pain a bit more. So I'm just there on the bed. Well, not on the bed. Next to the bed. You're on the bed. I'm next to the bed, and I can see the number go up, and there's a contraction coming. So I hit the boost mode, and you're on the gas and air, like
love the gas and air,
living the dream. And then it goes away, and then you turn it back down to normal, and then obviously you increase the strength and stuff like that.
You were increasing the strength. At one point, I had to tell you to turn it down. I thought, I swear this is getting stronger.
I'm just trying to help out. So I was basically manning this TENS machine, which for the majority of the time, I mean, it helped me get through it all, if not you.
I don't know, really. I think so. I was just wired up to loads of different things, so I don't really know.
Well, yeah, hopefully it did something. Either way, it gave me something to do, which I think was the main thing. But then, towards the end of it, you got to... As the contractions were getting harder, the monitor was showing that the baby's heart rate was dropping, which is baseline, like their heart rate should be between 120 and 150-ish, and his baseline was about 120, 130 all night. Further on in the night, it got to like 115, 110. So they then used a second or a different type of monitor which clips onto the top of the baby's head and gets an accurate reading. Throughout the course of the night, that was still showing essentially the same sort of thing, like 110, 115. And then there was a concern, because every time there was a contraction, it dipped as well. So it was a case of like, is he suffocating or choking or anything like that? So then the plan was to do something where they prick the baby's head, take a drop of blood, do a test on it to check how oxygenated the blood is. and they would be able to then say, oh, he's getting enough oxygen, even though the heart rate's showing that it's lower, because there can be a discrepancy on the machines. But as they were going to do that, they discovered that you were fully dilated.
Yeah.
And so what was like, we're just going to do this to get a better reading, was all of a sudden, right, Emmy, time to push.
Because previously when they put the clip on, they said I was 6 or 7, didn't they? So I think that had happened quite quickly. And obviously they hadn't picked up on that I was further along than what we thought.
Yeah.
And that's probably why baby was showing signs, because he was on his way.
And before that, actually, you had an epidural as well.
Oh yeah, so just before.
Because the contractions were getting quite strong.
But that's probably because he was nearly there. And I don't think if they had known, I don't think they would have let me have that epidural.
Yeah, because I remember the contractions being like...
But I was like...
strong.
Asking for that man, like, where is he?
It was more like, where is he? On the gas and air. So you had the epidural, and like the weird thing about that is once it's in, you press a button to give you a dose.
And it also takes, they said it takes 15-20 minutes to kick in.
So they put that in and it gives you the first dose, and you didn't actually press the button again for it to... You can't overdose on it anyway, but it gives you a timer, but you didn't even press press it a second time. But then when they were going in for the blood test, they found that you were fully dilated, so all of a sudden you're pushing, and then before we know it...
Yeah. It was just...
Baby's out.
That was a bit of a blur, because when the doctor came in to do the blood test, then all these other people just rushed in, and they were like taking bits of the bed off, and my legs went up on these stirrup things, and they were grabbing hold of my feet, and you were just like, I was just in the middle of it all, but obviously you could see what was going on. Yeah,
the scary thing for me was... It was what we were saying before, is that it was always like, we're going to do something, and then it would always escalate to something else. And like with the tests throughout the night, it was like, we're going to do a test, and all of a sudden let's move on to the next step. And then it was like, okay, we're going to, like, there's a concern about the baby's heart rate. Is he getting enough oxygen? Okay, now push. Yeah. And it was like, whoa, what is happening here?
So then we were pushing, and then the doctor turned around and he was like, we're going to have to use forceps. So that's another thing that they then added on. And
yeah, but to be fair, they did say that if you have the epidural, the chances of a forceps delivery is higher because of how it numbs you, I guess. But he kept saying to you, can you feel your legs? Can you move your toes and things like that?
Yeah, I could move my feet and things. I wasn't like paralysed.
Do you know if you're supposed to? Is he checking if something's gone wrong, or is he just making sure something's gone right?
I think you're supposed to be able to move your legs. I don't really understand.
Weird. But yeah, so forceps delivery as well because of the epidural, which again was brutal. Like, you've got all these people in the birthing room. I obviously didn't want to see what was happening at the action end, so I was kind of like leaning sort of on towards your belly and like looking up towards you, just giving it the obligatory stroke of the head. You're doing great.
I caught a glimpse of the forceps and I was like, oh my god.
I'm glad I actually didn't, because they're pretty scary.
Yeah, then I just shut my eyes and my eyelashes were just like hanging on. I could feel them. I was closing my eyes so tight.
And then the baby was born, which was, again, the most surreal thing.
I thought I'd be like really emotional and crying, but I think it all happened so quick that I couldn't actually process what had happened. And then they put the baby on me, and I was like, what? That's come out of me?
So I did feel emotional, but I remember at the time thinking, because obviously there was so much going on, I didn't want to be a blubbering mess in the corner whilst like the baby's just come out. There's obviously a lot has happened that the doctors are still doing something. So it was all just very much like scary. And then like because you don't know what to expect once the baby's out, it's like, is he breathing? Is he supposed to be crying?
He was really quiet when he came out. He did cry a little bit, but I expected screaming and
we even heard babies coming out and then screaming down the hallway, didn't we? But Elliott's quite a quiet boy.
He's very chilled.
So that was it, and the baby was out, and then if you don't mind me saying, there was an element of blood loss, which was quite scary, which again was a reason why we didn't want to, or I was thinking, let's not get all emotional right now, because obviously something serious has happened. We just need to make sure you're okay, because like, you know when you don't know what's going on, but you can tell there's a vibe in the room, and like everyone was making sure you were okay, but there was still a lot of action going on and things like that. So it's like, shit, something is still going on, something's still going down. But as it was, everything's okay in the end, as we can see, because
because I'm here. I made it.
And so how long has he been born for now?
So he's 11 days old today.
11 days as of time of recording. And how have you found these first 11 days? Because you were in hospital for a few days after it.
Yeah, so he was born on the Monday morning, and then they let me out on the Thursday. Because I had to have a blood transfusion. They had to check that I was okay, and then Elliott had some jaundice, and they wanted to do some checks on him, so they kept us in. But I'm actually quite glad. Yeah,
I think having the support from medical professionals, like after it was all done, I definitely had a more positive outlook on the whole thing, because I was thinking like, okay, because everything's finally gone well and we're out the other side and there's no problems, I was able to sort of look back on it and feel a little bit more positive about it. The
first couple of days I kept crying, and I think it did like, I don't want to say traumatise me, but I had to have all these needles and things, and they constantly wanted to take blood, and I think it just got to the point where I didn't want to have it anymore, and it was scaring me. And even though I'd been through all that pain, just having a blood test just pushed me over the edge. So all the nurses and midwives were coming in, and I'd be crying over having an injection or something. So yeah, that was kind of tough. But because during the process I wasn't really aware what was going on, it was only when I came out and the midwife said, "Oh, you've been through a really traumatic time." If they hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have even thought anything. But
yeah, it was scary, and I think traumatizing and traumatic are probably accurate words to describe it. I think you go in not knowing anything, seeing all this stuff happen, and then like,
especially for people like, we've not really been in hospital, so all things like that is very alien to us. So
yeah, it was very intense to say the least. And then so while we're in hospital, you kind of have some time to feel all emotional and all shell shocked about it. But I think, tell me if I'm wrong, but now that we're home, it's been more, okay, we just need to figure out this baby thing, make sure he's happy, and your mind just goes from thinking back about what was quite intense and quite emotional to all of a sudden you just need to look after the baby.
I think I needed that time, because if I'd come home and got thrown straight into it, I don't think I would have coped at that point.
And some people had though, hadn't they? There was a couple of other women on the ward that had cesareans in and out.
And they just go home, but maybe they were just worried about my mental state as well, if I'd been crying and things. So, but then I got a lot of help and support with looking after the baby, because we didn't make it to any antenatal classes.
No, so they were helpful.
There was 2 classes we were supposed to go to. The second one was the day that Elliott was born. The first one got cancelled anyway, so yeah, we didn't get any advice.
And now we've got midwives and all sorts coming around the house on a daily basis.
Still not been shown how to change a nappy properly, so I hope I'm doing it right.
I assume we're doing it right. It's not spilled out onto the table or anything yet.
I'm covered in wee a lot.
That happened in hospital as well, which was a very stressful time. Anyway, I think we should wrap it up there. Overall, what was your experience like?
Well,
out of 10.
It wasn't what I planned.
No.
And obviously no one would plan for that, because that's horrendous. But I've come to terms with it now, and I think I'm okay with it. It could have gone worse. I could have been in labour for days and exhausted. So in a way, I'm glad that it was kind of quick, over, done, and we're both okay.
And I would just like to say to all women, like, oh my God, like you are a definitely a different breed to us men.
I surprised
like,
myself. I didn't know I could do that.
Yeah, like you think the stereotype is like a hard man. And I know that is a super stereotype, but like when you see what women like yourself and like and now I understand like what others have to go through, like it's some next level shit. So my I don't know what the word is, but not condolences, but like bravo
respect.
for serious respect for anyone that does go through it and repeatedly goes through it. I mean, you must be able to like block it out of your mind.
I think the memory kind of fades, and then. Yeah, because I'm seeing it as more of a positive than what I did before, so it's weird. Your brain must work in a different way.
Do you think that if you were to go through it next time, that you would be equally as scared? Or do you feel that now you kind of know, obviously it's not been the best sort of experience to go through, but because you've been through it, do you think that you'd be a little more comfortable?
It's hard to say. Because
so long as it went the same way or better, you'd be okay.
I think maybe because this time I didn't know at what stage I was, how long I was going to have to go through it for. Maybe I'll have a bit of a better idea next time. I don't know. We'll have to see, but it's not going to happen anytime soon.
Good. Still trying to figure out how I'm going to pay for it all. Guys, thank you so much for listening and watching. If you have any questions for myself or Emmy or Adam, any pop tips, any war stories or birthing stories, please send them in. You can email them to dadknowsbest@nbs.fm. Emmy, thank you for joining me on the show. Next time we have you on, probably be with Sarah as well, so we can just do a full episode of You Were Wrong.
Oh yeah, we'll have to listen back and make loads of notes. I think Sarah's already got some.
Yeah, I think from my understanding, she literally stopped listening after episode 2 because too many incorrect facts were said on the show. Guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you so much. Speak to you soon. Bye.